Hey guys, John here from Bring the SEO. In today's short presentation, I'm going to share with you a strategy that I've learned over the years that helps me go about determining as to whether or not the prospect that I'm speaking with has the potential to be a good SEO client. Now, when it comes to taking on board new SEO clients, it can be really easy, let's face it, to take someone's money, especially if you need it. They're waving cash in your face. It can be really easy to say yes. But I've learned over the past number of years that there are ways in which you can potentially spot a problematic client. And I've based this loosely upon the time money matrix, which I'll share with you in just a second. But if you keep what I'm about to cover in mind, it should save you from potentially working with a toxic client or a client that goes on to be problematic. Okay, so let's take a look at the first client type. In this case, it's categorized as someone being time poor and cash poor. And believe it or not, this isn't always the worst type of client, but I'm sure for many of you working in the SEO industry, you'll be able to identify with this type of client. Clients like this are typically running broken businesses where they're running around in between, from one customer to the next. They've got no money, they've got no time. Their days are spent putting out fires and being reactive as opposed to proactive. Now, when it comes to dealing with these people, they'll usually go on to say things like, hey, listen, man, things have been really tough. The economy's not great at the moment. I've had to lay off staff. Our factory, our warehouse got flooded, our house burnt down, the dog ate my invoicing. They'll throw all sorts of problems at you. And on top of that, they'll say, listen, I don't really have much money. Is there any chance that you could, give us a discount or do us a favor? We'll go on to tell all of our, you'll get plenty of referrals and exposure. I'm sure, again, for most of you that have been working in this space, you'll be able to identify with clients like that. And these clients, again, strangely enough, aren't always the worst, but there's certainly clients or prospects rather, that should be avoided. Okay, the next type of client, and this is someone who is time rich, but cash poor. And for me, I've found these types of clients, believe it or not, to be worse than clients that are time poor, cash poor, simply because they don't have a large scale budget, yet they've got all the time in the world. And that time is usually taken up by emailing you 3 or 4 times a day, text messaging, calling you. I mean, I could spend an hour just talking about these types of clients alone. And for me, these were the worst types of clients. It's fairly, I think there are plenty of memes kicking around on social media I've seen one just recently that said, something along the lines of, I've just deposited $500 into your account. I'm really looking forward to our first meeting where I'm sure that you'll be able to get a good understanding of our business and our objectives and our long-term vision. And I think this is going to be life-changing for both of us, as opposed to a client that $50,000 deposited. I look forward to working with you. And that's it. So for me, these types of clients have always been the worst and should be avoided. Again, they're the ones that, and I've said this plenty of times over the years, the clients that pay the least amount of money make the most amount of noise. Okay, the next client type, and this could be argued either way, but in my experience, clients that are time rich, both time rich and cash rich, are also problematic, and I'll explain the reasons why. Now, for clients like this, they'll typically be paying large retainers. I'm talking $10,000 a month and more. And when clients are paying that sort of money, the nature of the relationship starts to change. And as part of that, expectations change also. And this is where they can start treating you more like an employee as opposed to a partner. And in my experience, especially for clients that are paying in excess of $10,000 a month, they will expect you to be available at any time. They will expect you to attend meetings. They will expect in-person meetings and, a whole host of other things that that are typically not always ideal. Now, if you tie in the cash rich aspect of it, which, let's face it, it can be great if someone's waving $10,000 a month in your face. But if you tie that in with the fact that they're time rich, and typically this comes about because they'll often have their own marketing directors or in-house marketing team, and those people will be, it won't be the manager or the director or the CEO that you're dealing with, it'll be their marketing department. So even though they're paying large retainers, you'll have those people in your ear constantly. You tie those two things together and you'll end up just like this guy here with, being bent over. It's not fun as much as it, it's painful to say because everybody wants large retainers. But again, I've found clients, like high-end clients like this, to be almost as painful as low-end clients. Okay, so that leads us to our final client type, which is time poor, cash rich. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Well, I don't want to deal with a client that couldn't be, doesn't have the time to attend meetings or doesn't answer his phone. I understand all of that. But for me, at least in my experience, clients that are busy running their actual businesses, that are doing, that are being responsible and taking care of businesses, that have allocated funds and marketing budgets to put towards their SEO campaigns have always been the best types of clients for me. They'll come to you and they'll say, listen, we understand that we're not the experts in this field. It's not a good use of our time. In fact, we don't have the time for this. You're the expert. We trust you with the recommendations that you've made. We're happy to pay the monthly retainer that you've requested, $7,500 or $5,000 a month or whatever that might be. You take care of that while we get on with running our business. Those types of clients for me have always been the best because they will typically leave you alone to do your job. They won't have high-end expectations. They'll be paying great retainers and they'll meet you halfway. And this is something that's critically important. An SEO campaign should be a joint effort and the client should be meeting you halfway. Now, again, I understand what you might be thinking. Hey, if they're time poor, they're not going to be able to have time to attend meetings and answer emails. Well, sometimes that's what you want. You don't want a client to be hassling you every 5 minutes asking for reports and constant updates. You certainly don't want to be micromanaged. But at the same time, if you structured your business in the right way, you really should only need, a minimal amount of client interaction, potentially once or maybe at most twice a month. So for me, these have been the best types of clients to work with. Those who trust you, they respect your experience, they let you get on with the job, they pay the invoices on time, and for them, they don't have the time to be hassling you every 5 minutes. These for me, again, in my experience, have been the best types of clients to work with. Now, you should always be mindful of these points, or at least what I've covered in this short presentation, when you're onboarding new clients. And a lot of this comes into play in terms of positioning, deciding upon the niche that you operate in, your offer, the client type, your ideal price, how much you charge and your ideal retainers, and all of those things need to be taken into account. And there will always be exceptions to the rule across all 4 quadrants. But I wanted to share this with you today because generally speaking, in my years of experience, this is what I found to be true. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to learn more, head over to bringtheseo.com. We provide business development training for SEO consultants wanting to improve their processes, increase profits, and scale to $100,000 a month or more without all the stress and overwhelm.